I will share my screen.
Okay, welcome everybody to today's lecture by Tshiamo Moleele. She's going to talk about understanding utilization of carbon capture and storage or sequestration. Tshiamo is a geoscientist, public speaker, and an Earth system science educator. She's also working for her MSc degree and works for the Council for Geosciences, Minerals, and Energy Units for the past nearly 2 years now. Before that, she was a tutor at the University of the Western Cape, so I guess she knows the Western Cape pretty well. Tshiamo, with that, why don't you share your screen and take it away.
Thank you so much, Craig. Thanks also for that lovely introduction. So I won't have to introduce myself, as Craig has said. So essentially today's, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. So essentially today's talk is more like an addition to my first talk that I did. I'll just throw the talk at the end. So I essentially started about last 2 years ago. I did a talk for GSSA where I looked at carbon capture and sequestration. Essentially, it was just to educate people into understanding what carbon capture is, what is sequestration, and all the benefits relating to that. So this is now it talks about, even in that talk, I specifically said that I won't touch on utilization. I think maybe I had preempted that I'll have this talk. So I'm very fortunate for GSSA. You give me another opportunity to talk about carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. So this is essentially just an overview of what I'll touch in today. I'll go back and give, for those that are not familiar with carbon capture, utilization, and storage, I'll also dive a little bit into the processes that are related to CCUS, and then I'll touch in why we're here all today, which is carbon utilization, and then the pathways that are there when you look at utilizing carbon dioxide. So essentially, what is CCUS? You might ask, which is a lot of time that people ask. It's not just a buzzword that you hear on the news or so. So essentially, carbon capture, utilization, and storage, what it refers to a suite of technologies that play a diverse role in meeting global energies and climate goals. So I'm going to be referring it to as CCS, sometimes CCUS, sometimes CCU. So CCUS is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. CCS is carbon capture and storage. Some people like to call it sequestration, but storage and sequestration are the same thing. And there's also CCU, which is carbon capture and utilization. So CCUS involves the capture of carbon dioxide from a large point source. These large point sources can be a power generation or industrial facilities where you get either fossil fuels or biomass. And this carbon dioxide can also be captured directly from the atmosphere. So if it's not being used on site by at the power plant or at the industrial facilities, this carbon, once it's captured, normally it is compressed and then it's transported by a pipeline, ship, rail, and it's used in a variety of applications, which I'll touch on today, or it is injected into geological formations and then where it's trapped permanently. So these technologies provide the foundation of carbon removal, where carbon dioxide comes from a bio-based process or directly from the atmosphere. And then currently in the world, there are roughly about 32 facilities that apply this technology from industrial processes, fuel transformation, and power generation. CCUS is expected to play a crucial role in meeting the global market, the global target as regards to climate change. And there are a few organizations that are leading all of this. The one that you might know is the International Energy Agency. You also get the Renewable Energy Agency, you get the IPCC, and you get the Bloomberg New Energy Finances. So all of these organizations have produced long-term energy outlooks that you can, if you go to their website or you go on Google, you can learn more about their outlooks. And the premise of all of this is so that we can limit our global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this slide shows you the processes that are involved in CCUS, minus the U for this particular part at time in the presentation. So the first stage of CCUS is capturing. So in capturing, there are 3 methods that you can be used for capturing. There are your post-combustion, your pre-combustion, and your oxy-fuel combustion. So essentially, post-combustion, what happens is that the carbon dioxide is removed, is separated from the flue gas, and then it uses a chemical solvent, and then whereas thereafter the fuel is burned. And pre-combustion, what happens is that the fuel is converted into a gas mixture, and this gas mixture consists of a hydrogen and a carbon dioxide before it's burned. And then once the carbon dioxide is separated, the remaining hydrogen rich mixture is used as a fuel. And then the last capture process is oxy-fuel. In oxy-fuel, it involves burning fuel with almost pure hydrogen to produce carbon dioxide and steam. And then this carbon dioxide is then captured. So once the CO2 is captured, it is transported. And then it is normally transported in a liquid state. And then you can see here, it can be transported via pipelines, via a ship, via a road tracker. And then from this transportation, the CO2 can be then injected into a deep geological formations. And the injection normally occurs from the 800 meters below. And it is permanently stored in either 4 ways. The first way is in a saline formation. The second way could be in a deep mineable coal seam. The third way is in enriched oil or gas recovery. And lastly, in depleted oil and gas reservoirs. And all these geological formations can be either onshore or offshore. And a lot of companies right now in the world, they predominantly, most of the commercial projects that occur, they normally done it in offshore. I think maybe because in offshore, there's a lot of things that you can avoid, such as humans and so on. So it's quite easier to store it currently, not all the time on offshore. So I hope now you understand the processes that are involved in CCUS, which is essentially capture, transport, and storage. And then now there's an alternative to permanent storage, and this is why we're all here. And then an alternative for permanent storage is to capture carbon dioxide for commercial products and services. So what is CCU? So CCU, normally utilization or usage, as some people like to call it, refers to using captured carbon dioxide to produce commercially marketable products and services. So CCU can serve the needs of the circular economy and essentially supply a variety of carbon dioxide demanding industries with renewable, non-toxic, and low-cost carbon dioxide. So for today, I'm only going to touch on 3 possible pathways into utilizing carbon dioxide. They are using direct use. Direct use meaning you use the carbon dioxide as it's captured. Conversions into chemicals or biological. What it means is you use either a biological source or a chemical source, mixing it with carbon dioxide to produce something else, or via mineral carbonation. So the first one that I will touch on is the direct use. So the first thing in direct use that I'm going to touch on is enhanced oil recovery, normally referred to as EOR. So enhanced oil recovery, what happens in enhanced oil recovery is that you inject carbon dioxide into an oil or a gas reservoir. You do this in order to increase the extraction of oil and gas. And then this method is actually one of the most well-known forms of carbon dioxide usage, and it has been there for decades. Essentially, what happens is that carbon dioxide, it's obtained and then it's transported via a pipeline from a source. The source could be a power plant. So then it is injected into an oil-bearing reservoir, where these oil-bearing reservoirs are normally depleted. And then once that happens, the carbon dioxide gets into the reservoir and then it mixes with the oil. And then this causes the oil molecules to expand, and then they flow to the oil production well. And then once it's there in the production well, the CO2 oil mixture is then separated. So once it's separated, the oil is sent to the market, and then the CO2 is re-injected into the reservoir. And then this CO2 will further enhance the production of oil from the reservoir. So using CO2 utilization for enhanced oil recovery can increase the oil recovery rate by 20%, which results in higher oil production and more revenue. And there's also other benefits to using CO2 with enhanced oil recovery. What it does is that it reduces the need of water injection, because before CO2 was used, normally oil companies or gas companies will use oil for enhanced oil recovery. So now, when you use CO2, it reduces the need of oil injection, and then it decreases the amount of water consumption that the oil company uses. And then this is quite beneficial if the oil well is situated in a water stressed area. And also, it must be also noted that the cycle of CO2 injection, not all of the CO2 mixes. Some of it is stored in the formation. If you remember when I was touching on the types of storage, enhanced oil recovery is there. So it is quite imperative to understand that not all of the carbon dioxide, when it mixes with the oil, gets mixed with the oil. It just stays in the formation. And then I just want to touch that based on research, carbon dioxide and oil recovery has essentially proven to be quite a cost-attractive technology when you're thinking about boosting the production in maturing fields. And also, this operation of enhanced oil recovery, it poses a smaller risk as opposed to when you use conventional oil exploration, because enhanced oil recovery reservoirs, they have been, as I said already, that they've been employed for decades. So research shows that it's quite a cost-effective technology. It's also a technology that promises a range of environmental, economical, and energy benefits, because as you increase the oil production, you reduce the water consumption and you reduce your carbon emissions. And then the second form of direct use can be seen in the food, beverage, and agricultural industries. So in the food industry, what happens is either a liquid or a solid carbon dioxide is used for quick freezing, surface freezing, chilling, refrigeration in the transportation of the foods that we consume. And in a cryogenic tunnel and in spiral freezers, what happens is that they use high pressure liquid carbon dioxide that is injected through a nozzle, and then it is converted into a mixture of gas, of carbon dioxide gas and dry ice. And then this is what covers the products of our food. And as it does that, it is used in refrigeration that is transferred to the product. And also another thing in the food industry, is that they're used for packaging. So how they use this, they use carbon dioxide in conjunction with nitrogen. So when they use carbon dioxide and nitrogen, the whole purpose of this is to exclude the oxygen from the atmosphere that surrounds the food. And then this is how the food in your supermarket can have a longer shelf life, and it has that freshness. I think some of you guys know there's a running joke of like you buy like a banana or something in the store, it's all ripe and everything, but then by the time you get home, it's starting to rot. It's because of this mixture of nitrogen and carbon dioxide. And then another thing that is used in the drinks beverage industry is that the carbon dioxide gas is used to carbonate your soft drinks, your beers, and your wine. It is also used to prevent fungal and bacterial growth in your beers and your wines. And another thing in the beverage industry where they use it is they use liquid carbon dioxide. They use it because it is a good solvent for a lot of organic compounds, and they use this also to when they do to decaffeinate coffee. So the decaffeinated coffee that you use is because of liquid carbon dioxide. And then in the agricultural industry, it's used in greenhouse horticulture. So greenhouse horticulture is a unique type of farming, so in which crops are grown in a transparent and closed structure. I think a lot of you guys have seen an example of a greenhouse. So what this does is that it offers greater control of the environmental conditions that are required for plant growth. So greenhouses are essentially sealed off from the atmosphere. And then as such, they require additional carbon dioxide in order to maintain ambient air conditions so that photosynthesis occurs. And this process, what it does is that it optimizes the growth conditions. And then as a result, the carbon dioxide is injected into greenhouses to stabilize the carbon dioxide levels throughout the day. So there's no inflation of carbon dioxide during the day. So it's so that the carbon dioxide, whether it's day or night, can be the same. And then an example of this, I'm sure everybody knows Coca-Cola. So in 2018, the Coca-Cola Hellenic bottling company in Switzerland partnered with another Swiss company called Climeworks. So what they do is that they use direct air captured carbon dioxide in their beverage carbonation. And then as all of us know that Coca-Cola is one of the largest bottlers of non-alcoholic beverages. So they started doing this, and then it's a good example of a large-scale industry deployment of Climeworks using direct air technology. And then actually, a nice little fact is that currently it costs roughly $780 per ton of carbon dioxide for beverage carbonation. And Climeworks, using direct air captured CO2, hopes that using direct captured CO2, they will reduce this amount to $130 per ton of CO2 by 2030. And then so now I'm going to move on to the second pathway of usage, which is chemical utilization. So what essentially chemical utilization is that it is through a reaction of carbon dioxide with another compound. So as you can see in this diagram, essentially carbon dioxide can react with the various compounds to produce. You see on the far left, on the far right, excuse me. So those are all the products that you can get. So if you mix carbon dioxide with sodium phenolate, you get silicic acid. So a silicic acid, where it can be used as a precursor for aspirin, and it's also used widely in other pharmaceutical products as well as cosmetic products. So when you take carbon dioxide and then you react it with ammonia, you get urea. So urea is primarily used in fertilizing production. And then when you take carbon dioxide with hydrogen via hydrogenation, you get ethanol. And ethanol can be used for so many things. It is widely normally used in transport fuels. It is also used in pharmaceuticals, plastics, polishes, cosmetics. And then it's also, ethanol is also a biomass feedstock. So when you take hydrogenation with methanol, and then you take it with carbon monoxide and methyl formulates, you get formic acid. So formic acid is used in the agricultural sector. It is used to make leather. It is used to make textiles. It is also used in the food manufacturing industries. Yeah. So when you take carbon dioxide and then you mix it with hydrogen and carbon monoxide, you get syngas. So when you get syngas, you get something called olefins. So an olefin is essentially such as an ethylene or a propylene. So these can be used as precursors to polymers and other chemicals. And then these chemicals are normally used in the agricultural sector or in the medicine sector. And then you can see that syngas it works with in a number of things. So another product that you get mixing carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and carbon monoxide is that you get aromatics. And the aromatics could be a benzene. These are used as feedstocks to produce plastics, to produce clothes, to produce paints, as well as in IT equipment. And then you also get dimethyl ether that is used in pesticides, polishes, aerosols, refrigeration, and also dimethyl ether can be used as an alternative to diesel fuels. And then when carbon dioxide reacts or is taken up by microorganisms, what happens is that it is converted into chemicals such as ethylene and ethanol. So as well as other products, but I'm just gonna, these are the ones that I jotted down. So these actually, your ethylene and ethanols are biochemicals, and they are produced at large scale. So there are also these large scale products such as your ethylene and your ethanol. They are used in quite a lot of industries, mainly your pharmaceuticals. I think it's pretty clear that pharmaceuticals are quite carbon dioxide is quite pivotal in the pharmaceuticals industry. The ethanol and ethylene is also used in terms of producing nutrients like your supplements. It is used in your fragrances and in your cosmetics. And then an example of companies that are using biological utilization, it can be found in the United States. In the United States, there is a company called Chemvita. So what they do is they are engineering microorganisms that convert carbon dioxide from a flue gas directly into ethylene. And then in the UK, you get a company called Deep Branch. What they do is that they convert hydrogen and carbon dioxide via gas fermentation into a single cell protein. And then they use it in the, and they used it as a aquaculture feed. And then there's also a company in Australia, Provictus algae. So what they use is they optimize algae for production for high value compounds. And then these compounds are used in the industries such as pharmaceuticals, natural pigments, feed supply, and food. So the last pathway of utilization is mineral carbonation. So carbonation is essentially the process that occurs naturally as part of weathering. So this is where carbon dioxide binds with minerals in the Earth's crust to form carbonates. This process can also be accelerated using thermal and chemical engineering to produce carbonates. So in mineral carbonation, carbon dioxide reacts with a magnesium and a calcium oxide to produce their respective carbonates, calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. And also, a silica is also a byproduct when carbonation occurs. So it's also a high value thing to look at, where you can monetize the silica that you get as a byproduct. And then a mineral, yeah, so this diagram that I have here, it shows you what happens when a feedstock reacts with a particular carbon dioxide source to produce an output. These outputs are a carbonate, a calcium carbonate, a magnesium carbonate, and a silica. So what happens is that when the for a magnesium carbonate output to occur, for a magnesium output product to occur, the products that you find in a magnesium carbonate, you can use it in a cement, as a cement additive. It can be used in a fire hydrant, a building material. It can be used in cosmetics, food processing, and a fertilizer. And actually, currently, the global market for magnesium carbonate ranges around the $258 million. And then in the calcium carbonate, the production, the outputs that you get from a feedstock mixing with a source, you get the industries that use it. They are mainly in the steel industry. It's also an addition when you take asphalt, when you're making road pavings. It is also used to stabilize soils. It is also used in the production of mortar to bind bricks. It is used in chemicals, where you get them, where you produce paper, where the coating of paint. It's also used in waste treatment, and it's also used in food and nutrients, like your toothpastes, your dietary supplements, and animal feed. And also the global market size for using calcium carbonate as an output, it is around $55,850 million. And then you can also use silica as an output. But I have to mention, like I said, silica is not a carbonate. It is a byproduct of carbonation. So it is also quite good that you can use silica to monetize silica. And the industries that use silica are in the same as magnesium oxide, where it can be used in cement as an additive. In cement, it is used in the production of glass. It is used in water filtration. It is used in coating. It is used in ceramic production. And then the global market size for silica is around $6,750 million. And then there's an example of a company that uses this mineral carbonation. You find it in North America. They're called CarbonCure. So CarbonCure, they use a system where they attach their system to an existing concrete plant. So what they do is that they capture the CO2 from an existing source, and then they inject it back into the concrete during mixing. So this technology has been licensed to existing concrete producers. This is in order to facilitate a more efficient rollout of the technology across the disparate plant locations that CarbonCure works at. So what CarbonCure claims is that they claim that their process of using carbon dioxide increases the concrete's comprehensive strength. And what this also will allow is that it allows less cement to be used to achieve the same strength that you would use if you were not using carbon dioxide. And this process has also been seen that it reduces the amount of solid waste disposal and the amount of water that is required. And to date, CarbonCure has secured quite a number of plants, and then they've also been working with an Australian company where they'll be using the same system that CarbonCure is using in North America. So here are some of the projects that use the pathways that I have mentioned. The first one is a company in Germany called North Sea Methanol. So what they did in 2020, they announced that they plan to use roughly about 65,000 tons of industrial carbon dioxide per year by using it with hydrogen to produce methanol. And then another company that you find in America, it's a company called 12. So they use electrochemical reduction to turn the carbon dioxide into a number of products, all the way from plastic to aviation fuels. And then another company you find in Switzerland, they're called Hellenic. So what Hellenic has done is that they developed a solar-based thermochemical conversion technology. And then they had plans of making the first plant to be online this year. And then in North America, you get, I've already touched on CarbonCure. You also get a company called Solidia Technologies. So these two companies are the leading companies in North America that are developing and commercializing carbon dioxide mineralization in concrete. And they have around 650 systems that CarbonCure has sold around the world. And majority of these systems have been sold in America. So this is essentially just a summary of the applications of carbon dioxide utilization pathways. As you can see, captured carbon dioxide has a variety of pathways. And then these pathways include biological conversions where it is used in algae and in greenhouse farming. We also can see that it's used as an inerting agent and as well as an extracting agency for decaffeination and so on. Also, captured carbon dioxide can be used in carbonate mineralization and refrigeration. It can also be used as a fertilizer or to make secondary chemicals. It can also be used as in plastics, as well as an enhanced oil recovery, enhanced gas recovery, which, as I've mentioned before, that it's the longest method of utilization. There's also a bunch of others, as you can see on this diagram. So, in conclusion, I hope you now understand that CCUS is a suite of technologies that can play a diverse role in meeting the global energy and the climate goals that are there. And I'm sure now, I hope you understand that carbon can be captured in 3 ways. It can be captured as a pre-combustion, a post-combustion, and oxy-fuel combustion. And once the carbon has been captured, it is then transported either via roads, pipelines, by ship, and then there's also 2 ways that can happen with the captured carbon dioxide. It can either be stored in deep geological formations, such as your saline aquifers, your deep unminable coal seams, or it can be converted and be used for commercial purposes, either in direct usage, or it can be converted using chemical or biological methods, or via mineral carbonation. So this image, as you can see on my conclusion slide, essentially summarizes the industries where carbon dioxide usage fits. And indeed, it fits in a number of ways. And these ways, they impact and they make our lives better in oil production, in preserving our food, giving us Coca-Cola, ensuring our beers and wines do not have bacterial growth, in the aid of our food production. It assists us in flying, it assists us in driving from one place to another, it assists us in the very car that we drive in. It aids on the roads and the buildings that we are on and that we live in, even in making sure that we smell and look good. And I think captured carbon dioxide is something that we must all appreciate, and we must all continue to understand its substantial usage and its benefits to not only us humans, but the environment. But I have to mention that carbon dioxide usage is not expected to deliver emission reduction on the same scale as carbon capture and storage, but it can play quite an essential role in being part of that old technology approach that we are looking for in terms of climate mitigation. So I hope that industries and governments will now look into this technology, particularly in the utilization portion, where they can incorporate this technology in their countries and in their companies, because it will not only benefit them financially, but it will help them be a part of the community that is aiding in climate change. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you, Tshiamo. Are there some questions? There are some hands up. Peter, go ahead, go first.
Thank you very much. That wasn't actually a question, that wasn't a hand, that was two hands up that were actually clapping together. So that's two hands. Thank you for quite a comprehensive and easy understandable presentation. I had no clue about it before. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Are there other questions or comments? I have one. I guess it's both a comment and a question. I mean, given the amount of carbon, of CO2 that needs to be captured, is there a balance issue between what has to be captured and the production or the industrial uses of it? Is there some sort of relationship, or is it a very lopsided relationship? In other words,
It's okay. Sarah, continue.
In other words, the economics of this are going to be quite crucial. If supply is way over what demand is, how is that going to work its way through the business models of these various organizations?
Mm-hmm. I think they can't be a balance, because one thing about carbon sequestration is that it is permanently stored. So it's more, there is no in terms of the circular economy, or in terms of the life cycle of carbon dioxide, once it's permanently stored, that amount of carbon emission is automatically removed. Whereas when you're utilizing it, it gets into a life cycle. So in terms of companies and in terms of the supply and demand, there's always going to be a surplus amount of carbon dioxide. So the point of utilization is more so, especially for companies such as oil and gas and cement industries, it's more so an incentive for them to not only just emit carbon dioxide, but to cycle that carbon dioxide for other uses.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
There's an additional economics issue that has to be modeled into this process, I guess. That's
Yes, you're definitely right. I didn't touch on a lot of like the drawbacks or the financial implications of utilizing carbon dioxide, because my intent was more to educate on the fact that this technology exists, not so how much or what could, or the revenue in terms of numbers that a company or a country can benefit from it.
yeah. I mean, there's interesting dynamics at play here.
Yes, definitely. I think maybe in the next few months or so, I'll probably just write an article on that part, because I've been thinking about it quite a lot in terms of what are the financial implications and who is going to be the beneficiary of it. So I think it'll be more so of an article than a talk.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yes, and also additionally, for people's interest sake, that who are interested in learning more about carbon utilization. So I found quite an interesting article that I think people would benefit. So I'm just going to put it on the group chat. So how do I do that again? Can I just drop down? No, I can't.
Should be
How do
able
I
to open up your chat box.
Okay. So yeah, so I'll just do that while we take more questions. I think it'll be a nice read. So essentially, it's just a document. There's a comprehensive one. It's a document, and then the first part is like a summary of putting carbon dioxide to use, and then the second portion is like the technical aspect of it. So I think people will enjoy reading that as I try to find a way to share it.
You should be able to type it into the chat box.
It's a Word document that I have. It's a PDF that I have. Yes. It's now found it. Yes.
Are there any other questions or comments? Maybe one last one for me. How many experimental facilities have we got constructed in South Africa at this point?
At this point, 0, from my knowledge.
Okay.
Everything that I know that is occurring in South Africa is all still in its pilot stage.
Okay. And you say there's I think you said there were 32 facilities around the world that are actively recovering and presumably selling CO2.
Yes, it's 35. Those 35 are the ones that mainly focus in storage.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And then the primary storage is in saline aquifers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and then there's also a few, because I also didn't touch on it. Yes, I just realized now I didn't touch on it. Apart from those 4 geological storage, there's also a company called Carbfix that they've been doing storage in basalt.
Okay.
So I just put the document in the chat for everybody. It's called Putting Carbon Dioxide to Use.
Okay, that should be pretty interesting. Are there other questions or comments? If not, Tshiamo, thanks very much for this presentation. We will get this edited and a bit of a cover put onto it and posted on the GSSA YouTube channel. for everybody to see and relook at some of the diagrams. Possibly you may want to go back to and have a look at that stuff. I guess I was struck by the number of uses that are possible. That was quite an eye opener for me. With that, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. I hope load shedding is not getting everybody down, and I hope you have a good weekend. I'll leave the meeting open for anybody who would like to comment, and close it in about 3 or 4 minutes. So
Thanks,
thank
Craig.
you very much.
And thanks to everybody that attended.